Start anytime. Okay, because today we're back again with the orally transmitted teachings, and we're going on to chapter 8 and chapter 9. They're both short as it relates to the points being made. And if you're going to talk to an academic, somebody that's not someone of pure faith, they would talk about this being one of the thirds. What we're about to do is to finish up this whole issue that has to do with Shakyamuni and his voice hearers, disciples, okay? So this is, again, though these first 9 chapters have been written in a specific kind of a way, and then when we start on the teacher of the law, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a different style and a little bit of a, it's just the reality of this very old teaching, okay? So, going to page 78 when we do it, I'm going to do some stuff out of the dictionary first. It's chapter 8, Prophecy of Enlightenment for 500 Disciples. And then on page 80, chapter 9, Prophecies Conferred on Learners and Adepts. And again, without me trying to get through this mess here of a dictionary, I'm just going to go through the various things that I already have marked that I have to go over with you. Okay, for today, we're going to talk about faith quite a lot, but when we go into the issue of faith, I think it's best, again, if we understand exactly what the real meaning of faith is, because it's not just belief. It's belief and understanding, and understanding isn't understanding without action, okay? So it's not just, I believe. You got to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Simultaneously. All right, so faith from page 174 of the dictionary. It says, a basic attitude emphasized in both early Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. Faith constitutes the first of the 5 roots or the 5 elements of practice conducive to enlightenment, expounded in early Buddhism. So even the Theravadins, the whole thing's based on, the Hinayana is all based on faith. Faith, Shakyamuni said right up front, that's the basis of everything. Because if you don't have at least the faith to believe until you can disprove it, you'll never know what's being said, whether it's true or not. Okay, so you have to have faith in order to embrace the teachings that are being, conveyed to you, because they're things that you don't know. Okay, so faith constitutes the first of the 5 roots or the 5 elements of practice conducive to enlightenment, expounded in early Buddhism. The 5 roots are faith, exertion, memory, meditation, and wisdom. Now, these are big issues with Hinayana Buddhism, right? Mahayana Buddhism likewise emphasizes the importance of faith. The Flower Garland Sutra, which we know was the very first thing that he said under the Bodhi tree, and that's Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, the Agamas came after, that's Hinayana. The Flower Garland Sutra says, faith is the basis of the way and the mother of blessings. The Mahavira Parinirvana Sutra says, although there are innumerable places that lead to enlightenment, if one teaches faith, then that includes all of those practices. Okay? So once again, that is a fully encompassing element of our daimoku. If we're practicing as bodhisattvas of the earth, we're practicing with faith. That's basically saying, again, we don't have to worry about there being anything outside of that is necessary for us to be able to maintain and reveal our Buddhahood, right? Okay, so in the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni addresses Shariputra, who was known as the foremost in wisdom, as follows: even you, Shariputra, in the case of this sutra, were able to gain entrance through faith alone. How much more so than the other voice hearers, which are the ones that we've been talking about, okay? The treatise on the great perfection of wisdom attributed to Nagarjuna reads, the great ocean of Buddhism can be entered through faith. In great concentration and insight, Tentai states, Buddhism is like an ocean that one can only enter with faith. So, the reason that I'm bringing up this issue of faith is that, again, I've already qualified that this is the Daishonin's enlightenment. Okay, this isn't following an outline of somebody else's expressed understanding or the positions that they feel are important. This is Nichiren Daishonin's, okay? The faith issue of how you embrace what is said here will qualify how much power you're able to produce from that action. Okay? So I need to make sure that everybody understands that if you have questions, then all you have to, it's okay to have questions. But you take those questions to the Gohonzon and you resolve them through the power of the proof of actual fact. There is no question that you shouldn't be able to get an answer from your Daimoku to the Gohonzon. But you have to have sincere faith. Okay, you can't just be, okay, let me see something change. Let me see something change. That isn't the way it works. That's not showing any appreciation for the fact that you're giving access to enlightenment. Okay, so you have to be a little bit humble, but most importantly, you have to have a seeking spirit. That's what exemplifies faith. Okay, so he says, another Sanskrit word for faith is, I'm going to screw this up because it's Sanskrit. Abhimukita. Pardon me. Adhimukti. I don't know. I should have probably mastered that pronunciation before I started reading this. Again, what it means is confidence and is rendered in Chinese Buddhism as belief and understanding. Let me say it again. Another Sanskrit word for faith is that thing I couldn't pronounce. It's Adhimukti, which means confidence. And when you translate it into Chinese, it's rendered as belief and understanding. Okay? It means faith based on understanding, which is what we practice, right? It also means to take faith in, to first take faith in the Buddha's teaching and then to understand it. Abhimukti is the Sanskrit title of the Belief and Understanding 4th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, translated by Kumara Jiva. The distinctions and benefits, 17th chapter Lotus Sutra says, Ajita, if there are living beings who, on hearing the lifespan of the Buddha is of such a long duration, are able to believe and understand it for even a moment, the benefit they gain thereby will be without limit or measure. So, why? It's because of the level of cause you're making in expressing, in giving that belief. Okay? It's tremendous cause. Okay, let me read that. Ajita, if there are living beings who, on hearing that the lifespan of the Buddha is of such a long duration, in other words, they hear the lifespan chapter. Okay, in Numberless Major World System, Dust Particle Kalpas. If they're able to believe and understand it, even for a moment, even if they only got like a rise while I was talking about it, the benefit they gain thereby will be without limit or measure. In the record of the orally transmitted teachings, Nichiren states, belief represents the value or price we attach to a jewel or treasure, and understanding represents the jewel itself. It is through the one word belief that we are able to purchase the wisdom of the Buddha of the three existences. That wisdom is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. And then it says, see faith, practice, and study, and I'm going to go ahead and do it because it's important. The three fundamentals in the practice of Nichiren's teachings. Now, that got changed by the Soka Gakkai to being the three pillars. Okay? But you must always understand they are not three equal pillars. Okay, don't ever think they are. It's a misstatement to qualify them that they're equal as pillars. I had an issue with that. Okay, you can paraphrase it, you can make it easier to understand by saying it that way, but that's not the case, because the point is that practice and study both come from faith. So it's really the one pillar that breaks into two pillars, but it's based on the one pillar, so there are three pillars. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a very important thing to have a concept of. All right? All right, so the three fundamentals in the practice of Nichiren's Buddha teachings. Faith means to believe in the Gohonzon. Faith means to believe in the Gohonzon. Now, what does that mean? Or object of devotion. When you believe in the Gohonzon, what do you believe in? The Buddha nature that Gohonzon is said to be able to manifest in you. Okay? So your faith means to believe in the Gohonzon. What is the Gohonzon manifested from? The enlightened nature of Nichiren Daishonin, the original teacher.
Right.
Okay, you can't beat can't beat original. Are you with me, bro? Okay, so faith means to believe in the Gohonzon. That means faith means to believe in Nichiren. Faith means to believe in the teachings of Nichiren. Faith means to believe you are the Buddha exactly as you are. Faith means to understand or believe the understanding that enlightenment and delusion are the same thing. They're not separated. The entire teaching of Nichiren's Buddhism, okay, that will lead you to study. And then you see where this is all at. And the benefit and practice from that is not that you went through some action and made a cause of study, but now when you get in front of the Gohonzon, you have the mind of Buddhism. And the things you think about will be much more profound than what you were thinking about before you went into a study and then applied that to practice. When your practice reflects the level of study that's genuine study, rather than reading the gray boxes in the World Tribune or whatever publication, when you really decide you're going to understand what it is you don't understand. Because that's what happened to me. I hit a wall and I said, there must be something I didn't understand. We just had this conversation this morning. It changed my life. That terrible thing that was hitting the wall was the only thing that could have convinced me that I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. And it wasn't that I didn't know what I was talking about. I had missed a very subtle point. That it's talking about me. That the Gohonzon's not a piece of paper. Okay? That is the Gohonzon. We call it the Gohonzon. But the Gohonzon exists within my own life. I could have never, because it was too easy to just make a lot of money. It was too easy to just make a lot of money and live my life any freaking way I wanted to. Okay? The Gohonzon spoiled my ass to the point that I felt invincible, to the point that the Gohonzon was able to go, good, now I can show you you're not, and you can get this squared away and figure out who you really are, Tom. And then everything else everybody's been saying to you, Mr. Matsuoka, Mr. Osaki, it's all going to fall into place. And then there are going to be people that suddenly gather around you. They're going to want to know what you know. Okay? And this is the way it works for everybody. Okay? Mentor, disciple, mentor, disciple, mentor, disciple. They are not at two different levels. They are equal. Without one, the other one doesn't exist. Without, it is a duplicity. Okay? That is beyond your perception of understanding. Because when we talk about, he's going to talk about now, in a minute, we're going to be talking about joy that is expressed throughout the entire phenomenal realm. Our joy is received and experienced by other living beings. I'll get into it. All right. Study means to study and understand the Buddhist teachings, okay? That comes from believing Nichiren's understanding, having studied everything, right? Among these three, faith is the most fundamental for the attainment of Buddhahood, because you can't get to practice and study in their proper form without it. And faith gives rise to practice and study. That's where it comes from, okay? And practice and study serve to deepen faith, which is exactly what happens, because when you're in front of the Gohonzon understanding a deeper level of understanding, your Buddha nature percolates. It's real. It's not artificial. It's not just happy talk. You have a Buddha nature, but you have to activate it. You activate it with that seeking spirit of faith, that sincere seeking spirit of faith, because to study is not easy. Okay? It's a lot easier to say, I believe in something. Yeah. You're very convincing. I believe in you. But to go and study all the stuff that allowed you to say that, that's our job. We're supposed to be Buddhas in our present form. How can we be if all we know is the happy talk, but not where it comes from or why it's real? It's not happy talk. It's actual Ichinen Sansen. Yes. We can make that distinction. So he says, in the true aspect of all phenomena, written in 1273, Nichiren states, believe in the Gohonzon, the supreme object of devotion in all of Jampadvipa. Be sure to strengthen your faith and receive the protection of Shakyamuni, many treasures, and the Buddhas of the 10 directions, all the Buddhas that have preceded the teaching that I'm now expounding. Exert yourself in the two ways of practice and study. Exert yourself. In other words, that doesn't come from faith. That comes from action. But the reason you take the action is because of faith. Okay? But they're different things. You can't just believe and have taken action. That's my point. All right? That's why we've been doing this for so many years. All right? Okay. Exert yourself in the two ways of practice and study. Without practice and study, there can be no Buddhism. You must not only persevere yourself, you must also teach others. Both faith and study arise, both practice and study arise from faith. Teach others to the best of your ability, even if only a single sentence or phrase. So once I had taken it upon myself, because I was very fortunate to have such teachers that they gave me a very deep understanding of what the point was. And I went through the process of reading these Goshos over and over again and going through these 2 editions of the dictionary over and over again. Was there any possibility that I wouldn't find you guys? No, because everything I did is connected to you. Okay? Without you, it would have never manifested outside of myself, and maybe not have ever manifested at all inside myself. Had I not had the faith to go through what I went through and come out on the other side happy and shining, probably not. Okay, so that's the importance of faith, and then faith, practice, and study. And then the next thing I'm going to get to is right here. It's, what is Ichinen? Literally, what is Ichinen?
Faith.
Nope. Well, yeah, it is, but what is it really? It's faith, but how does faith exist?
At that moment.
A single moment of life.
Yeah.
That Ichinen is, is a single moment of life.
Yes.
Okay, it can't be defined by amount of time. Okay, and yet, what is it that we say allows us to achieve Buddhahood? The reality of, 3,000 worlds in a single moment of life. So this concept of single moment of life, what the hell is that really? What is it? Ichinen? We should read what it is, okay? Because we've heard it, from people, you've got great Ichinen. What the hell does that mean? I mean, you've got a lot of Kanki. What the hell does that mean? Okay? So, It's much more profound than that, by the way. Okay, so each in it, a single moment of life, which is the easy way to say it, one instant of thought, or the mind or life at a single moment. Also, life moment, thought moment, or simply a single moment or instant. Each in it has various meanings in Buddhism. A moment or an extremely short period, comparable to the Sanskrit term kshana. The treatise on the great perfection of wisdom, which we just said is probably Nagarjuna, is attributed to Nagarjuna, defines the one kshana or moment as a 60th of the time it takes to snap one's fingers. Okay, that's one definition. 2, the functioning of the mind for one moment. The distinction in Benefit's 17th chapter of the Lotus Sutra speaks of a single moment of belief and understanding. I pulled that out. I pointed that out to you when we went through that chapter. Or not, we haven't gone through that. When we went through that, we did go through something that was talking about this same single moment. Oh, that's what we're going to read. Pardon me. The distinctions in Benefit's 17th chapter of the Lotus Sutra speaks of a single moment of belief and understanding. 3 is to focus one's mind on meditating on a Buddha. A patriarch of the Chinese Pure Land school defined each nin as one instant of thought as chanting Amida Buddha's name once. Okay, this is where it counts. Tentai philosophically interpreted Ichinen in his doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. So again, why did I go through all of that and now I get to Tentai? Because those other schools interpreted different things differently. And everything that Nichiren says to you is based on the interpretation, the first building blocks of Nagarjuna, Nanye, Tentai, Chang'an, and Myolo, and Dengyo. Okay, that's what leads us to the correct teaching in the 21st century. All right, Tentai philosophically interprets Ichinen in his doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Ichinen Sanzen. In this doctrine, Ichinen indicates the mind of an ordinary person, which at each moment is endowed with the potential of the 3,000 realms, and its characteristics are: it pervades the entire universe. This is the truth. Our single moment of life, our Ichinen, pervades the entire universe, which I've already said, and the Daichon has already qualified several times so far in what I've read. It includes both body and mind. It's not something that's just in our head. It's our temporary gathering of the 5 components. So the only way this is actualized doesn't happen in a spooky bodiless fashion. Okay? It includes both self and environment. In other words, if it includes me, then everything around me is included as well. And fifthly, I guess, it encompasses cause and effect simultaneously, okay, which we both know as the simultaneity of cause and effect. Nichiren embodied this philosophical framework, which I just said, point 1, it pervades the entire universe. It includes body and mind. It includes both self and environment. It gives rise to good and evil, and it encompasses cause and effect simultaneously. It gives rise to it includes body and mind. It includes both self and environment. It gives rise to good and evil, and it encompasses cause and effect simultaneously. Nichiren embodied this philosophical framework in the form of a mandala known as the Gohonzon. By this, he aimed to establish a practical way for ordinary people to manifest Buddhahood from among, to manifest, okay? Not to praise this outside thing, but to manifest, which means transformation of oneself, right? You manifest something by bringing it forth. Okay, it has always been there. By this, he aimed to establish a practical way for ordinary people to manifest Buddhahood from among the 10 worlds of their own lives. And the 10th world is in every one of the other 9. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the synopsis of the 2 chapters that we're going to read right now, because they're both prophecies, start with prophecies, so they're right across from each other on page 522 and 523. You with me? Okay. Prophecies, 522, Prophecies conferred on learners and adepts chapter. Abbreviated as the Prophecies chapter, the 9th chapter, pardon me, I'm going backwards. Prophecy of Enlightenment for 500 Disciples chapter, that's the 8th chapter. Abbreviated as the 500 Disciples chapter. The 8th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, at the beginning of the chapter, Purna rejoices at having understood the teaching of one vehicle by hearing Shakyamuni tell in the parable of the Phantom City, 7th chapter, which we just finished, of their relationship in the remote past when Shakyamuni was the 16th son of the great universal wisdom, the Buddha, great universal wisdom, excellent. In this prophecy of enlightenment for 500 disciples, in this chapter, 8th chapter, Shakyamuni predicts that Purna will attain enlightenment in a future existence as a Buddha named Lobrai. Subsequently, he prophesies that the 1,200 Arhat disciples in the assembly, including Kaundinya, which remember that I shown and mentioned in chapter 1 of the OTT, as significant of being in that the assembly. Kaundinya also, including Kaundinya, will also attain Buddhahood. He first bestows his prophecy on 500 Arhats and then on the remaining 700. All 1,200, he says, will become Buddhas with the name Universal Brightness. To show their understanding of the one vehicle teaching, these 500 Arhats then relate the parable of the jewel in the robe. So this is, again, just like the Arhats did before, or the Arhats of intermediate capacity, the voice hearers of intermediate capacity, they're the ones that gave one of the parables. Okay, so now in this one, the Arhats that he's just qualified are all going to attain Buddhahood. They give they are the ones that are telling the parable of the jewel hidden in the robe. Okay, and then chapter 9, which will be right after that, is Prophecies conferred, and this is on page 522 of the dictionary. Prophecies conferred on learners and adepts chapter, abbreviated as the Prophecies chapter, the 9th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, in which Shakyamuni Buddha prophesies the enlightenment of Ananda, Rahula, and 2,000 other voice hearer disciples in the far distant future. The chapter begins with Ananda and Rahula, inspired by Shakyamuni's prediction of enlightenment for the 500 Arhats in the previous 8th chapter, requesting that Shakyamuni bestow on them a prophecy of enlightenment. Shakyamuni complies and predicts that Ananda, this is what I heard, that's that Ananda, will become a Buddha named Mountain Sea Wisdom, Unrestricted Power King, and Rahula, a Buddha named Stepping on 7 Treasure Flowers. He then bestows a prophecy of enlightenment on the 2,000 voice hearer disciples, who include both learners and adepts. Adepts are those who have mastered the enlightenment of the voice hearer and become Arhats, nothing more to learn. All of these 2,000 disciples, he declares, will become Buddhas with the name Jewel Sign. This chapter concludes Shakyamuni's teaching of the replacement of the 3 vehicles with the one vehicle, which he's been doing for several chapters now, right? The subsequent chapters deal with the practice and propagation of the sutra after the Buddha's death and its transmission to future ages, which is why I said academics say this seems like a little bit of a break, like maybe this first part was written and the second part, Okay, because they're a little bit different. You'll see they're different. So, just giving you that in case you ever get challenged by somebody. Okay, prophecy of future enlightenment. I'm going to read this because this talks about what all these prophecies, all this prophecy stuff has to do with. I'm going to not give you the Sanskrit or the Pali pronunciations. I can't read it. A Buddhist prediction that a disciple or disciples, okay, prophecy for future enlightenment. A Buddhist prediction that a disciple or disciples will attain enlightenment in the future. One of the 12 divisions of the teachings, Vakrarana, is rendered as the prophecy of future enlightenment and indicates the part of a sutra in which Shakyamuni Buddha pronounces that a practitioner will attain Buddhahood in future existence. Such prophecies are common in Mahayana sutras. The Lotus Sutra contains a number of passages in which the Buddha predicts enlightenment for his disciples and foretells what their titles as future Buddhas will be, as well as the names of their respective eras, kalpas, and Buddha lands. In a simile and parable chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha predicts the enlightenment of Shariputra. In the bestowal of prophecy chapter, the 6th chapter, that was the 3rd chapter, simile and parable. Then in the 6th, Shakyamuni predicts the enlightenment of the 4 great voice hearers, Mahekeshapa, Subhuti, Kaityayana, and Madhyayana. In the 500 disciples, 8th, and the prophecies, 9th chapter, Shakyamuni predicts enlightenment for other individual disciples as well as for groups of disciples, thousands in all. According to the Jataka stories of the Buddha's previous lives and a previous existence, Shakyamuni himself received a prophecy of enlightenment from the Buddha burning torch. Okay. And then we go to something very important. The simultaneity of cause and effect. Let me make sure, right. Okay, the simultaneity of cause and effect. Everybody understands what that is, theoretically, correct? All right, so let me read the dictionary definition of the simultaneity of cause and effect. The principle that both cause and effect exist together simultaneously in a single moment of life.
Yes.
What?
Nothing.
Okay. In a single moment of life. Okay, so why did I read you what a single moment, what the importance of Ichinen is? Because it says it's only in that single moment of life does the principle of the mutual possession of cause and effect exist. So why is that though? Without me going further, and I'm going to read the rest of it, but think about it. Why would that be the case? That only in a single moment of life. Let me read what it says. The principle that both cause and effect exist together simultaneously, the simultaneity of cause and effect in a single moment of life. What have we been getting to through all of this stuff we've been learning so far? What is the key? What did he say that the original state is almost? It's living beings. It's life itself. Okay? Before we were just talking about, I'm wrong chapter here. We were just talking about this in the last chapter. Last time we were together last week, okay? Yes. It takes you as an incarnate entity to do anything. The rest of it's fantasy. It's stories. If you don't have appearance, nature, and entity, you don't exist.
Right.
Okay? And a single moment of life only exists for the duration, and it happens like little slices, micro slices. Think of life as film. Okay? Each is a progression. That's your karma.
Yes.
Okay? And moment by moment by moment, those individual frames are going by so fast that it seems like they all run together. But they don't actually. They're all really worthy of great praise, because even a single moment of life of the state of Buddhahood, even a single moment is such an incredible thing So let me go now and finish this again. Simultaneity of cause and effect. The principle that both cause and effect exist together simultaneously in a single moment of life. It contrasts with the concept of non-simultaneity of cause and effect, or cause and effect as they appear in the phenomenal world, where there inevitably seems to be a time gap between action and its result. From the viewpoint that all phenomena exist in a single moment of life, all phenomena, there is no time gap between cause and effect. In other words, cause and effect are simultaneous, and there's no separation between you and anything else at that point. 2, cause, the 9 worlds, and effect, Buddhahood, simultaneously exist in one's life. In this sense, the simultaneity of cause and effect is revealed in the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Nichiren's work, The Entity of the Mystic Law, which I read, and you guys weren't here, but it's there. Did you guys ever hear my reading of the Entity of the Mystic Law? It's a heavy duty go show. I mean, it's really, you should listen to that video. We did that, and we also did on prayer, I think, right after that. The Entity of the Mystic Law and on prayer together. You should listen to both of those videos. There are not Gosho lectures from Daisaku Ikeda on them. They are major Goshos. Okay? Daisaku Ikeda has not given Gosho lectures on several major Goshos, okay? Because they're too difficult to explain unless you have the kind of back and forth that we're having. You couldn't put it in a here's a dialogue kind of a form and dot all the I's and cross all the T's, because it's talking about Buddhahood, and that's a fluid, that's not a defined aspect. The truth. What is the truth? It depends on each moment. A single moment of life depends on what truth is, right? So, in contrast with the concept of non-simultaneity of cause and effect, or the cause and effect as it appears in the phenomenal world, where inevitably there seems to be a time gap between action and a result. From the viewpoint of the phenomenon of that all phenomena exist in a single moment of life, there is no time gap between cause and effect. In other words, cause and effect are simultaneous too. Cause, the 9 worlds, and effect, Buddhahood, simultaneously exist in one's life. In this sense, the simultaneity of cause and effect is revealed in the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Nichiren's work, The Entity of the Mystic Law, discusses the simultaneity of cause and effect as an attribute of the mystic law. It states, he, the Buddha, perceived that there is this wonderful single law, Myoho. He's really referring to the original. He's referring to himself. He calls him the sage. The sage. He, the Buddha, perceived that there is the single law, Myoho, that simultaneously possesses both cause and effect, Renge, and he named it Myoho Renge. If he named it Myoho Renge, this isn't Shakyamuni. This single law that is Myoho Renge encompasses within it all the phenomena comprising the 10 worlds and the 3,000 realms, and is lacking in none of them. So this law contains everything. Anyone who practices this law, which is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, will obtain both the cause and the effect of Buddhahood simultaneously, so that when they see the truth, they understand the truth as a Buddha. It's not be a bodhisattva and then get to a point where that truth makes sense. You encounter the truth and you perceive the truth simultaneously. That's a Buddha, okay? Let me say that again. Anyone who practices this law will obtain both the cause and effect of Buddhahood simultaneously. So you're already there. You're not at a stage where you got to go another stage. Do you understand? Okay. Because the law of Myoho Renge-kyo encompasses all phenomena comprising the 10 worlds, it simultaneously possesses both the cause or the 9 worlds characterized by delusion and the effect, the world of Buddhahood. To obtain both the cause and the effect of Buddhahood simultaneously means that by practicing this law, one will obtain both the cause or practice for attaining Buddhahood and the effect of actualizing Buddhahood simultaneously within oneself. What is that called? Attaining Buddhahood in one's present form. That's what that just described. That's attaining Buddhahood in one's present form. Let me say it again. To obtain both the cause and effect. That's why we can do it.
Yes.
Okay? Because this isn't our first time around. Or we wouldn't be this deep into it. Okay? We're the disciples of the original teacher. We're here to be a teacher of the law.
Yes.
The next thing we're going to learn about. All right? I'll say it again from here. Because the law of Myoho Renge-kyo encompasses both all phenomena comprising the 10 worlds, it simultaneously possesses both the cause or the 9 worlds characterized by delusion and the effect, the world of Buddhahood, the original state. To obtain both the cause and the effect of Buddhahood simultaneously means that by practicing this law, one will obtain both the cause or practice for attaining Buddhahood and the effect of actualizing Buddhahood simultaneously within oneself. That would mean attaining Buddhahood in one's present form. Specifically, Nichiren is referring here to the practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and its function to instantaneously tap and bring forth one's innate Buddhahood, which can only be done by his disciples. You got to be a bodhisattva of the earth before you can pull that off. Okay? You earn that through your actions. You reveal that through your actions. It's not just anybody. The people that can do it will show that they can do it because they do it. Okay? And I think that's all I got out of the dictionary. Let's go ahead, and we got plenty of time to do these 5 points, because they're not that difficult. These are for people that are less advanced than you are, frankly. All right, chapter 8, prophecy of enlightenment for 500 disciples. 3 important points. Point 1, concerning the parable of the jewel in the robe in the prophecy of enlightenment for 500 disciples. Now again, this is the parable that was told by the actual cause awakened ones to describe what he has allowed them to perceive. All right? The record of the orally transmitted teaching says this chapter tells the story of the priceless jewel that was sewn into the lining of a man's robe. It's the story in that chapter. In a word, it means that Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo have accepted and taken faith in the wisdom jewel of the one vehicle. The wisdom jewel of the wonderful law of the one vehicle. The mind of faith is comparable to the jewel that is sewn into the robe. So what does that tell you? Point 1. Okay. In a word, it means that Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So this has nothing to do with anybody that doesn't chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, because they have not even entered the door. Okay? Yeah. So there's no relationship to them. Yeah. Okay? That's why he says the true 3,000 realms does not exist in the absence of faith. Okay? Somebody off the street cannot just suddenly do that unless it was their karma and they've already created the causes, and then they manifest as a bodhisattva of the earth by immediately going, I'm hearing what you're saying and I believe it. Okay? That's the whole deal. Okay. All right. So he says, in a word, it means that Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo have accepted and taken faith in the wisdom jewel of the wonderful law of the one vehicle. Okay. Now that's a mouthful, but the wisdom jewel of the wonderful law is the reward body of the Dharma body that can only be expressed through the manifested body. Do you understand? You perceive that you are a Buddha exactly as you are, and you do the things that manifest and make that so, which means faith and practice and study. You teach others. You have to teach others or you're not really the real deal. If you're only doing it for yourself, then you're still an arhat. Okay? If you want to be a Buddha, that's the whole thing of Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva says, I'll forego being able to skip out on the karma of living in the Sahe world. I want to help people. That compassion is what brings about the wisdom that ultimately manifests as Buddhahood. Don't forget, where does wisdom come from? What is Buddhahood? A state of wisdom, perfect wisdom. Okay, complete and total perfect wisdom is described as, okay? So where does it come from?
Compassion.
Yeah, but where does that come from? That comes from the mind. So that's what he's talking about. In a word, it means that Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo we've gotten the three bodies. We've just now gotten the three bodies, okay? But we didn't know we were getting three bodies. We were just thinking we were listening to this teaching. But he's qualifying, no, listen to what it is. In a word, it means that Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo have accepted and taken faith in the wisdom jewel of the wonder of the wonderful law. They have become Buddhas in their present form. Okay? And the mind of faith is comparable to the jewel that is sewn into the robe. That's what I asked you. Why? Because the idea is that this guy walked around with this priceless jewel sewn and he didn't even know it was there. You're Buddha and all the people on earth, every incarnate living being for that matter, has the original state within them.
Right.
Okay? They cannot manifest this priceless jewel, find this priceless jewel in the absence of the mind of faith. And the mind, if you have the mind of faith, that is comparable to you having the jewel sewn in your robe. Because if you don't have the mind of faith, there is no jewel sewn in that robe.
Right.
You will never even think to look for it.
Right.
It will never be a treasure that you realized already existed in your life, which is the reason the parable is written that way, to show you that it's really already you. It's not something you got to go get. It's something you got to bring out. Okay? There's a huge difference.
Right.
It's your true identity versus the one that's diluted. Okay? Okay, so that was just point one, right? Point two. Everybody's with me on point one, right? Point two. On the passage, world honored one, it was like the case of a man who went to the house of a close friend and having become drunk on wine, lay down to sleep. I don't know how many times you guys have done that, but I've done that a few times. Okay? I've gone into the wrong house thinking it was mine. Okay? So I can really relate to this. This is all about being drunk or being sober. And it qualifies delusion to being drunk and sobriety to being, straightened out. Okay? All right, so world honored one, it was like the case of a man who went to the house of a close friend and having become drunk on wine, lay down to sleep. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says the wine stands for ignorance. Now, what's ignorance? Lack of access to the truth, or a lack of belief in the truth. That's ignorance, okay? Okay. And ignorance leads to slander of the law, because you don't know shit. You're kind of stupid, frankly, at that point. I hate to use that word, but I use it often. That's ultimate ignorance. That's arrogant ignorance. You refuse to listen to the potential that you might not know something that you're sure you must already know. Okay? Okay, that's because it's like wine. Wine gets you drunk. When you get drunk, are you thinking straight?
No.
Okay. Could you possibly know how to drive and talk as well as you would if you weren't drunk?
No.
Could you be convinced that's not the case, though?
No.
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 Okay? So this is a great analogy. Okay? The wine stands for ignorance, and ignorance leads to slander of the law. Because if you're ignorant of the law, you're not going to know how to behave properly or where to show the appropriate appreciation and gratitude. To lie down means to be born into a family that slanders the law. Now, I don't know. I wasn't born into a fortune family. I'm not a fortune baby, but you are, aren't you? No? No other fortune babies here?
No.
Okay, well then you know who I'm talking about. Somebody that's born into a family, and like my kids. My kids are all super fortune babies, okay? They just got back from partying their asses off in Japan for 2 weeks. I wish I had their life. I wish I had their life. Okay, but it's cool because they're all trilingual. So go do your thing, baby. All right, so to lie down means to be born into a family that slanders the law. So I guess that would be all of us then, right? To lie down. Now, okay, so long ago, what happened to all our family members that are not reflective of the same karma that we see that we have found in ourselves? Why would that be? Because the slander can always be eradicated. You know, this slander is not a permanent state. This isn't say, the wine stands for ignorance. Ignorance leads to slander of the law. And to lie down means to be born into a family that slanders the law. Does that mean that you're screwed? No, it means you gotta become aware of the truth. All right? And so it continues. Long ago, he goes, this is how that happens. Long ago, major world system dust particle kalpas ago, certain persons drank the wine of evil influence. As a result, in a drunken state, they kept transmigrating through the 5 or 6 lower realms of existence, and now they've been born into families that slander the law. To be drunk means to be lacking in faith. Okay? To be drunk means to not know you need to have faith. Because to sober up means to have faith. Okay? To be drunk means to be lacking in faith, and to sober up means to have faith. So to be drunk, lacking in faith is not having the wisdom that you perceive yourself to have. It's delusion. All right? Sobering up is not to be under the influence of anything. That's wisdom. All right? Do you understand what he's saying? To be drunk means to be lacking in faith, and to be sober up means to have faith, to get rid of that delusion. Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo at the top of page 79, they are in effect sobering up from the wine of ignorance. Okay? So, how many of you have ever been drunk? I have, many times. Do you know how long it takes to sober up?
Days.
It depends on how drunk you were. Period. Okay? So the fact that different people hit this in different stages or at different depths of what needs to be requalified is really only makes sense. Okay? Okay? All right. So, are in effect sobering up from the wine of ignorance. And what is the ignorance? What are they ignorant of? Again, let me say it again. Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, they are in effect sobering up from the wine of ignorance. What is the ignorance that they sober up from? that they then go try to help other people too. What is slander? What is slander of the law? How can you not slander the law if you don't even understand what the law is or where you should not be making those kinds of moves? How could you ever try to be repentant, so to speak, in terms of your behavior? Okay, so what they wise up to is the truth. They sober up to the truth. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo.
Yes.
Okay, again, continuing on page 79. Again, we may say that when it comes to wine, there are various gradations. Some wine will really mess you up fast, and sometimes takes a little bit longer, even though they're all basically the same alcohol level. It's how they're made, how they're refined, right? Wine that is fresh and right off the vine and hasn't been sitting in barrels is not as tasty, I guess, as the stuff that's been aged, right? So he says, again, we may say that when it comes to wine, there are various gradations. So now he uses this analogy to further clarify ignorance versus wisdom. The provisional teachings represent a certain kind of wine, in relation to which the teachings of the Lotus Sutra represent sobering up. Okay? So this is also always, again, what was true is no longer true once a greater truth is revealed. And something, then this greater truth that is no longer the greatest truth if there's a greater truth revealed. Do you understand? Okay, so everything is in relationship to what preceded it and how it grew out to be something bigger and better or more clear or more correct. And how do we know that? On the basis of the law of cause and effect. Okay, how did things go for that group, for those people thinking that way? All right, the proof of actual fact. Okay, so the provisional teachings represent a certain kind of wine, in relation to which the teachings of the Lotus Sutra represent a state of sobering up. We realize, oh, that's an expedient means. And as to the relationship between the theoretical teaching and the essential teaching, the theoretical teaching represents a kind of wine because it depicts the Buddha as having attained enlightenment for the first time during his lifetime in India. And the essential teaching represents a sobering up from this wine because it reveals that the Buddha originally attained enlightenment in the remote past. Everybody's with me? Now, what are we talking about there? We're talking about the Lotus Sutra. All right? Now let's drop down one more paragraph here, where he says, now using that same analogy that I was qualifying about Shakyamuni, okay, and his essential teaching and his theoretical teaching, he says again on page 79, again, both the theoretical teaching and the essential teaching, so the entire Lotus Sutra, may be said to represent a kind of wine. Because if you don't advance beyond that teaching to the true teaching of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for the latter day, you're practicing something that is not in keeping with the age. You'd be watching black and white movies. You'd be driving a Model T. You know what I'm saying? You won't be drinking the wines that they have today. Okay? All right, so, and again, both the theoretical teaching and the essential teaching may be said to represent a kind of wine, while Nam Myoho Renge Kyo represents sobering up from this wine. Because Nam Myoho Renge Kyo reveals Buddhahood in our present form, actual Ichinen Sanzen, right? The wine and sobering up from it are mutually inseparable. That's the beauty of all of this. Why?
It's all you. It's all within that.
It's always a reflection of you. And so then what?
We are equal.
It has to include world 1 as well as world 10. There's no separation between evil and, again, there's no separation between anything. That's the whole point. Okay? The wine and sobering up from it are mutually inseparable. Without the wine, you couldn't sober up. Do you get it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The wine was necessary for you to sober up. Okay? The wine and the sobering up from it are mutually inseparable. So what does that mean? They're the same, they're different aspects of the same thing. All right? The wine is ignorance, and sobering up from it is the realization of the Dharma nature. The wine is ignorance of the true identity, and sobering up from it is the realization of the Dharma nature, the true identity, the false identity. Ho, or dharmas, phenomena, stands for wine, and myo, or wonderful, stands for sobering up. When we chant myoho, or wonderful law, we are expressing the idea that ignorance and a realization of the Dharma nature, which would be Buddhahood, are in fact a single entity. Okay? They are two sides of the same coin. Thus, volume 1 of Great Concentration and Insight, Tintai in the Makashikan says, ignorance and dust of earthly desires are none other than enlightenment. Because if you don't have a body and if you aren't born into the 9 worlds, you can never discover the 10th world.
Yes.
It is impossible for that to occur.
Right.
All right? All right. So then point 3 on the words, in the body and mind we are all filled with joy. In the passage, now we have heard from the Buddha these prophecies and descriptions of adornment, and how each in turn will bestow a prophecy on his successor. And in body and mind we are all filled with joy. In other words, Shakyamuni is saying, not only are you getting prophecies of enlightenment, you'll be giving out prophecies of enlightenment when you become these Buddhas in the future. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says at the bottom of page 79, body here refers to the principle that the suffering of birth and death are none other than nirvana, while mind refers to the principle that earthly desires are none other than enlightenment. All refers to the fact that in the 10 world, that all the 10 worlds participate simultaneously. Joy refers to the joy experienced by the entire Dharma realm simultaneously. So your Daimoku, your Buddhahood is felt everywhere, and everybody else that knows what it is happy about it. Okay? Understand that. Everything we do affects the whole universe, not just the few people that we saw or knew. We're that connected with everybody else. He's saying that right now. The entire phenomenal realm. Okay, let me read this again. Point 3, in the words, in body and mind we are all filled with joy. And he qualifies that all is everybody, everything. Okay? In the passage, we have heard from the Buddha these prophecies and descriptions of adornment, and how each in turn will bestow a prophecy on his successor. And in mind and body, we are all filled with joy. He says, as far as this thing, in mind and body, we are all filled with joy. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, body here refers to the principle of sufferings of birth and death are none other than nirvana. What is that talking about then? Life in the Sahe world, right? Body here refers to the principle that the sufferings of birth and death are none other than nirvana. Because if we're not alive, living beings, if we don't have form, appearance, nature, and entity, we don't get to nirvana, Buddhahood, right? Right. While mind refers to the principle that earthly desires are none other than enlightenment, our karmic mind king, which allows us to continue in the process in each lifetime that brings us back to the original state. Okay? We realize this principle each time we attain Buddhahood, because that is the attainment of Buddhahood in your present form, that realization. All refers to the fact that all the 10 worlds participate simultaneously. Okay, when we do this, when we attain Buddhahood, we experience joy.
Yes.
What this is now saying then, all refers to the fact that not all of my disciples or all of you guys, all living beings, which is everything, all is everything. Okay, all refers to the fact that the 10 worlds participate simultaneously. Joy. Is the 10 worlds separate from anything? No. Refers to the joy experienced by the entire Dharma realm simultaneously. What's the entire Dharma realm? The entire realm of phenomena. What's simultaneously? At the same moment. Okay? So everything that we might think is separate and individual to us is not. Okay? He says, within this joy then is contained the joy of all the Buddhas of the three existences of past, present, and future. Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, Shakyamuni Buddha experiences joy, as he indicates in the words in chapter 11, Treasure Tower, I will surely rejoice. This joy is shared by the good and evil realms alike because there's no separation between them. It is shared by the 10 worlds from hell to Buddhahood simultaneously. And he says, you should give careful thought to this. This is a very complex reality that I just did my best to try to express. But again, if you read the OTT, when he says you should give careful consideration or careful thought to this, do so. What he's basically saying is that for you to really understand what I just had it put down in writing, it's got to come from your Buddha nature. I've done my best to make it available to you. But you have to bring it out of your life by making the damn effort that I did. Okay? And this isn't a freebie. None of this is a freebie. You earned everything. You're a Buddha because you earned becoming a Buddha. Always understand that. So now we go to chapter 9. Chapter 9, there's only 2 points. Chapter 9, prophecies conferred on learners and adepts. 2 important points. Point 1, on the terms learners and adepts in the prophecies conferred on learners and adepts chapter. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says learners means those who do not possess wisdom. Adepts means those who possess wisdom. Now when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are bestowing on both learners and adepts a prophecy that, as Shakyamuni Buddha said, all persons will be equal to me without any distinction between us. Chapter 2, expedient means. Are they not? So Nichiren is qualifying. We're doing exactly, he says, okay. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, Nichiren says, learners means people that do not possess wisdom, which means they don't know yet of my teaching.
Yes.
But does it exist within their body?
Yes.
Yes. It's the original state.
Right.
Adepts means those who possess wisdom. Whenever he says wisdom, he's talking about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, okay, or the truth.
Okay.
All right. So means those who possess wisdom. Now, who know about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Now, when Nichiren and his followers, because Nichiren can't do it by himself.
Right.
Now, when Nichiren and his followers chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, they are, through their actions, creating Kosen Rufu.
Right.
They are bestowing on both learners and adepts, people that know about Nam-myoho Renge-kyo but don't necessarily practice, and people that don't know anything about it. They are bestowing the prophecy of Kosen Rufu. That, as Shakyamuni said, all persons will be equal to me. Buddha land.
Yes.
A third of the people at a minimum have all attained the enlightened state without any distinction between us. And the Daishonin says, are they not? He says, again, you have to decide whether I'm telling you that I believe that they are. My Buddhahood says that my disciples are doing exactly what Shakyamuni did. I believe we're all doing exactly what Shakyamuni did. When we do exactly what Shakyamuni did, we're bestowing a prophecy of enlightenment on all mankind, are we not? On all living beings, are we not? Yes, is the answer to that question.
Right.
Some belong to the adept category in terms of body, but to the learner category in terms of the mind, while others belong to the adept category in terms of the mind, but the learner category in terms of the body. What does that mean? Some people don't have the mind of faith, but they have the energy to go do something. Some people think they have the mind of faith, but they don't do shit.
Yeah. Right.
Okay? All of them get to attain Buddhahood. All right? There's no slander that keeps them from attaining Buddhahood. Some belong to the adept category in terms of body, action, but to the learner category in terms of mind, what they actually understand. While others belong to the adept category in terms of mind, they understand, but they don't chant, they don't do practice, they don't do shit. And so subsequently, they really are only in the learner category in terms of body. Their actions don't reflect what they do know, but they don't, as long as they don't do it, they might as well not know it. Doesn't count. All right? These learners and adepts are all the living beings in the country of Japan. On all of them, wise and foolish alike, we bestow the prophecy of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, preaching to them forcefully, though it angers them. What'd that just say? Absolutely. This is all Kosen Rufu. But what it's really saying about Kosen Rufu is that Kosen Rufu occurs because of Nichiren and his disciples. Okay? They're the ones that bestow this prophecy of Buddhahood. Not Shakyamuni. Not Shakyamuni.
No.
Okay? It's the Buddhism of sowing.
Right.
We don't have to do all the shit that Shakyamuni. No.
No.
Okay, this is the Buddhism of sowing. So again, these learners and adepts are all the living beings in the country of Japan. It's everybody around us. All of them, wise or foolish alike, it doesn't matter. We bestow on everybody, you're all going to attain Buddhahood chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Kosen Rufu is going to happen. Preaching to them forcefully, though it angers them. What is that? That's the definition of. What did you say? Shakabuku, period. That's the subject, that's the answer.
There's no harsh shakabuku?
There is definitely harsh shakabuku. You didn't know that?
Yeah, I know.
There's some serious harsh shakabuku.
Yes.
The bottom line is that preaching to them forcefully, though it angers them. No one likes to be told quit chanting Nimbutsu.
No. Oh, yeah.
Walk away from Amida tomorrow immediately. You're going to go to hell if you don't stop.
Right.
Okay? No, though it angers them, shit, yeah. But do we not tell them because we know that's going to piss them off?
We do.
No, we say, you're going to go to hell. And we smile and say, don't say nobody told you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, true.
Page 81.2 on the passage. At that time, the Buddha said to Ananda, the guy I couldn't think of, the one that, this is what I heard. Ananda, chapter 1. In a future existence, you will become a Buddha with the name Mountain Sea Wisdom Unrestricted Power King. Thus come one. Whew. God, I don't know if I want any of these kinds of names. Who will remember my name? I'd rather be Tom. I think that's what I am. Okay, the record of the orally transmitted teaching says mountain stands for the principle that earthly desires are enlightenment. C stands for the principle that the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. Wisdom is what is expressed in the words we speak. Is it not? To take his words? Are they not? Are we not? Wisdom is what is expressed in the words we speak. Unrestricted means without hindrance or obstruction. What is he talking about here? He's talking about what he just said, but he's making it more clear. Power king or penetrating king refers to the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, to the 100 worlds and the 1,000 factors, to the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Buddhahood in your present form. Okay. Let me go to the top again. Point 2, at that time, the Buddha said to Ananda, in the future existence, you will become a Buddha named Mountain, Sea, Wisdom, Unrestricted, Power, King, thus come one. The record of the orally transmitted teaching says, let's break your name down. Mountain stands for the principle that earthly desires are enlightenment. Okay? The common mortals are Buddhists. C stands for the principle that the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana, that only the incarnate state that involves suffering, birth, old age, sickness, and death can one be the Buddha in his present form. Wisdom is what is expressed in the words we speak. We speak the truth, the words of the original teacher. Unrestricted means without hindrance or obstruction, because we're badass, fearless disciples, and we don't, even though it angers them, we could give a shit. Our job is to tell the truth. Unrestricted means that nothing can restrict us from telling the truth.
Right.
Even the threat of death.
Right.
That's unrestricted. And if you're that way, you are definitely a power king. I mean, straight up. All of that just described a power king. Unrestricted means without hindrance or obstructed. Power king or penetrating king refers to the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, which refers to what? Buddhahood, to the 100 worlds and 1,000 factors, and to the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Buddhahood in your present form. And the Buddhahood that exists when we separate to the 100 worlds and 1,000 factors, that's the Buddhahood that the non-sentient entities all experience as a reflection of the environment that we create. Again, we may say that mountain represents the meaning of the theoretical teaching, and sea represents the meaning of the essential teaching. Wisdom represents the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo, the wonderful law. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are the Buddha, mountain, sea, wisdom, unrestricted power king. We become Ananda, who Ananda was prophesied to be. Now Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are the Buddha, mountain, sea, wisdom, unrestricted power king. He is none other than we, Nichiren and his followers. Outside of us, the votaries of the Lotus Sutra, there is no other Ananda. The name Ananda means joy, the joy of awakening to the realization of the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Buddhahood in your present form. So, do you understand how this all tied together, though? Because what he was describing is you. Let me say the last paragraph of point 2 quickly. Again, we may say that mountain represents the meaning of the theoretical teaching. Now, he's already said this is you. Okay? All right. Represents the meaning of the theoretical teaching, and sea represents the meaning of the essential teaching. So you got no teaching you're lacking. All right? Your wisdom represents the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo, of the wonderful law. That's the true wisdom. Now when Nichiren and his followers who chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo are the Buddha, mountain, sea, wisdom, unrestricted power king, he is none other than we, Nichiren and his followers. Outside of us, the votaries of the Lotus Sutra, there is no other Ananda. The name Ananda means joy, the joy of awakening to the realization of the principle of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. When we awaken to that joy, all the Buddhas in the entire phenomenal realm, and everywhere from the past, present, and future. And then he's also talking about unrestricted means without hindrance or obstruction. That means we're fearless in our preaching. We understand that the sufferings of birth and death are nirvana. We don't lament living in this 9-world life that we have. We're Buddhas. We're Buddhas just like Nichiren. We have the same mission as Nichiren. There's nothing less than us compared to Nichiren, Daisaku Ikeda, you name it. If they're a Buddha from chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, we're all equal. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I really don't time these out, but why are they always an